Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, today we are going to be taking a quick look at Iron Helm, a game designed by Jason Glover, and this is another game that is available on Game Crafter. I am kind of a Johnny come lately to this game. It seems like most other YouTube channels similar to mine have already covered this game, but I just recently got this and I wanted to thank my buddy Josh for donating this game to the Dungeon Dive for me to cover. And I like this game quite a bit. It's very simple, but it's very good. This is a game that is a very good example of how a small detail in the theme can really make the game better and can create an even better experience. And here's what I'm talking about specifically. In the intro here, it says, "Your withered hand grips the handle of your sword. Blood mixed with sweat drips down your brow and finds its way into your eyes, stinging for just a moment. Pounding footsteps shake the ground, and you attempt to find a way to steady your aching feet. You turn to face your foe as you mutter to yourself, 'I'm getting too old for this.'" Yes, so Iron Helm, you are an aging adventurer out on one final quest to obtain as much gold and treasure as you can so you can finally retire from your dangerous lifestyle. I really like that little detail that in this game you are playing an old adventurer. One reason why I really like that is in video games, whenever I can create my own character, I always like to play an old man. I often play an old, like kind of a cleric style character who has maybe lost his faith or is struggling with his faith. But there are not enough games where you get to play as old people, and especially in this kind of fantasy setting where wisdom is cherished. And that is something I really appreciate about this game. Now, it doesn't really change anything mechanically, and that's fine, or I guess it does a little bit. So the game already feels pretty tense. Wins can come down to the wire. You are seemingly constantly on the edge of death in this game. And so I guess that kind of does match up with you being this old, maybe a broken, a withered man or woman, just trying to scrape by, going into one last dangerous dungeon to get some loot, to get some gold in order to retire and afford your retirement lifestyle. So just a really neat little detail that I think adds a lot to the game. And I think the art goes a long way in doing that as well. The art in the game is absolutely fantastic. So what you're seeing here is the end of a unfortunate loss here. This game usually takes about 30 minutes. This game here took me maybe a little bit more than 30 minutes because it just kept going and going. It was a very arduous experience. This was kind of a long epic dungeon where I went through the entire dungeon and lost at the very end. Didn't even find the boss. So what you're doing in this game is you are going to be taking a character, and your character is going to have health. They're going to have a certain amount of energy which they spend to attack. They're going to have a carry limit. They're going to start with some rations, some food, and some gold. And then each one of the characters is also going to have a different skill set that they're better at. So this guy here, Phaon, he was specialized in agility skills. And then you have Zola. She also specialized in agility skills. Moloclan in brawn skills, and Swordtab in mind skills. So you're going to take your character. The characters are going to start with some items, a buckler and robes. So he would start with the robes. My buckler, my shield broke on this adventure. And he also starts with the dodge skill, which helps me pass an arrow trap or a dart trap. And then you are going to be working your way into a dungeon, going level by level. And as you get deeper into the dungeon to finally reaching level 5, the enemies are going to get more and more powerful. At certain points in the dungeon, you are going to be triggering these plot cards. And those cards are actually going to have these little eyeball symbols. Whenever you reach a plot total of 10 of those eyeball symbols, well, then that's going to trigger the end game, in which you are going to have to fight one of these 3 bosses that comes with the base game: a Naga, a Lich, or a Lurker. Well, in this game, the reason why it was going for so long was I just wasn't finding enough of these plot cards to trigger the end game, so I just had to keep going. I only ended up with 9 of these eyeball symbols before I died. And it was just like I was trying desperately to hang on to reach that final boss, but I just couldn't do it. And these plot cards are pretty cool. These are kind of where more of the thematic elements come into the game. Sometimes they offer choices. They offer a little bit of rest, maybe some relaxation. You can discover cool things on these plot cards. And there are a few of them, not a ton in the base game. And that's kind of an ongoing theme in the game. You get enough to enjoy, I think, a few days of gaming, but there could definitely be more in the base game. Luckily, there are small expansion packs that are only like $6 that add some more to the game. I did like the base game enough that I did go ahead and order the expansion so I can experience more of the game. But what you're doing is you're going to be working your way through these dungeon cards. And there are a number of them. There are a number of skirmish cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. There are 3 ambush cards where you can either ambush the monster or the monster can ambush you. And then there are a small number of other cards: an arrow trap, a campsite where you can cook your rations and get some energy back. You can find treasure, gold, and loot. You can find a clearing where you draw a plot card. You also draw a plot card after you've gone through this dungeon deck. Every time you go through this dungeon deck, you draw a plot card before moving to the next level. You can get lost in a labyrinth, which you will need to use some rations to get out. You can find a mushroom grove where you can find mushrooms. You can meet a merchant to buy loot and potions, and you definitely want to buy potions in this game. And you can find an altar where you can get blessed or you can heal. So you're going to mix these cards up, shuffle them, and then on each turn, what you're going to do is you are going to draw 1 card face up, and then you're going to draw 1 card face down. So you can choose to encounter the face-up card, in which you would counter the number 1 spot because that is your first choice. Or you can press your luck and go on to door number 2, but you don't know what's under there. So it is a real pressure luck system, and that is a very cool thing in this game. It's a binary choice that you have to make on every turn. Do you want to take what's here in front of you or press your luck for something maybe safer or better? So in this card here, it's the ambush. Since this is door number 1, we get to do the top part. And this is where we would get to ambush an enemy. So we would probably want to take that. But let's say we didn't. Let's say we wanted to go on to door number 2. Oh, that's bad. So door number 2 was an ambush. But since that was door number 2, we have to go through here. And then now the enemy ambushes us. So there are 16 cards in the dungeon deck, so that means you have 8 turns per level. So the next level, then you would pick a face-up card. Well, that's an altar. That's a good card. You would probably want to do that, and you could avoid a skirmish. And so like that, you're going to be doing that each turn, deciding if you want to do the face-up card or the face-down card. 8 turns, you're going to come to the end of that level. You're going to draw a plot card to see what happens at the end of that dungeon level. And then you're going to move, after that, you're going to move down to the next level in the dungeon if you haven't drawn enough plot cards yet to trigger the end of the game. So relatively simple. The gameplay is super fast. It's super easy to learn. There are a few little fiddly bits, but all of the rules questions have been answered on BGG. There is a number of loot items that you can find here. So not a ton of loot, but enough to keep things interesting. So we have different loot items, of which there are some swords that will do different kind of elemental damage, a field guide, scale armor, a mimic. That's bad there. You don't want to find that mimic. An iron helm, the titular iron helm, a lamp, and a map, a bow. So pretty standard fantasy fare there. There are a number of potions that you can get, which potions are really cool. They can help you heal, but then you can also toss them for damage, some of them. And that is very handy to use those as kind of a potion grenades, especially when you come up to face a boss, because the bosses are pretty tough in this game. There are a number of enemies here. And the enemies are goblins, orcs, fishmen, wolves, skinklings, consuming masses, wraiths. Again, I really enjoy the art in this game a lot. And the combat system is relatively easy. You draw an enemy. The enemy is going to get an initial attack on you, but a lot of times you will have items that you can use to defend against that initial attack. And then you continue to have where your hero attacks, enemy attacks, hero attacks, enemy attacks, basically until one of you is dead. It's a simple D6 rolling system, and they will have a number of health. And then they also have their loot strength, so this you would get to draw a loot card. And they also have an element that they are weak against. And then you keep track of how many enemies that you have killed throughout the game. For every 3, you can spend those as an XP to gain a new skill in the skill system that you are better at learning. So in this case, agility. Or you can spend 5 to learn something outside of your school. And then what you do at the end of the game, when you've reached that number of plot cards, you're going to look at the element of all of the enemies that you've killed, and depending on which element there's more of, then you're going to draw that boss to fight against at the end. So yeah, pretty cool game. There are trappings, so these are things that you can buy that you will have at the beginning of the game, or that you can buy at the beginning of the game to help create your character. And then there are also these blessings. At certain times throughout the game, you can get these blessing tokens. And then at the end of the game, once you trigger your final boss, well, then you have a moment where a divine presence comes and blesses you. And then you get to flip over all of these tokens and reap the rewards. You can get cured of poison. You can get more energy, so you can do more attacks. You can, there are times where you can heal health. So that's another neat system. Kind of a pressure luck system again, where you want to get these, but you don't really know what they are until the end of the scenario, in which you will desperately need them, because yeah, this is a game where you are walking a fine balance of managing your rations. You are having to manage your stamina, your energy on attacks. You can get poisoned. The poison system is really cool in this game. Every time you get 2 poison tokens, when you go down a level, you add another one. So for every 2, you add 1. If any time your poison total matches your health total, well, then that is game over. You have been poisoned to death. So I really like the way the poison works in this game. But yeah, there's not a ton to say about this game. It's relatively simple. One of the best things about it is you can learn it, set it up, and play within minutes. It's super easy to take out and put away. The games last like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And you can have a really nice thematic kind of solitaire card game dungeon crawl that doesn't take up a ton of space, doesn't take up a ton of time. It's a small box. So yeah, there's a lot going for this game. And just that simple theme of you playing an old adventurer going on one last quest in order to retire, I think adds a ton of dramatic drive to the game. It's already this kind of like tense experience where you are just kind of constantly on the edge of losing, and just knowing that you are this old man or old woman who needs to get through this just to survive the rest of his or her life makes it all the more of a harrowing experience. And you do feel this slight connection to this cardboard character just because of that one little thematic element. So yeah, that is a look at Iron Helm. We will probably return to the game at some point when I get some of the expansions and take a look at some of the little adventure packs and stuff that they add. So all right guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at Iron Helm, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.